We're recording. It's official. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome for episode
Hello.
3. One of these days, I'm going to get the greeting right. I get so awkward when I try to come up with something clever.
I don't. I
Welcome
don't mean
for
I know
episode
that
3.
you get awkward. That's how I feel too when I try to do something.
I would have been fine with either because it both would have been true. Yeah, so welcome, everyone. Episode 3 on the docket. Woohoo. Sure, it's not at midnight like we originally planned, but guess what? You're still listening to this on Thursday, so we did it. We nailed
Yes,
that.
we did. Look at us go.
Okay. Well done. It is bright and early over here in both of our necks of the woods because we are both in the same time zone. It is 7 in the freaking morning. I've barely had my coffee,
I've
but
had two sips of an energy drink, so we're getting there.
this is going to be exciting stuff, guys, because you probably are going to get a little bit more unvarnished than you're used to because we are not fully caffeinated.
Yep.
So we might
Here
let
we
some
go. Yeah.
hard truths slip a little bit with a little more pizzazz.
Jazz hands.
Exactly. So we have 3 topics on the docket as we promised last week. And we're going to get into it because no time like the present. And we both have work in hours.
Woo!
So we got to get this show on the road so that we can get ourselves together for the day job.
I never get
So,
myself together, even though I say I do.
you know what we mean. You get
I
it. You
try.
get it.
Yep. Fake it till you make it, man.
So we have 3 topics, Sam, and because I feel like you're like the order whisperer now. That's what I've donned you. So you're gonna decide like what the order is. We've got tips and tricks for the editing folks on the line and proofreaders and aspiring editors and proofreaders. We've got scams, scammy scams, and we've got overpromising and underdelivering. How you want to
Hmm.
handle those?
Maybe we should do over promising and under delivering because I think
Ooh,
that's
yeah. Especially
that's
because
the
we're feeling
major one.
spicy and we don't
Yeah.
have a lot of caffeine in our system. So
Yes,
yeah, you're
definitely.
gonna. And
Yeah,
every
because I
now
think
and then
that's
I'll
the big
pause.
one out of that's what she said. That's the big one out of all the three, I think. Since
Oh,
we've
it's
been
good.
going through this lately.
Agreed, agreed. Every now and then we'll probably pause because one of us will be chugging our coffee or sipping, whichever.
Chugging,
Sipping our
yeah.
coffee, chugging her monster drink. We'll see. We'll just call it like meditative pauses. We'll go with that.
Yeah. So I guess with our over promising, I think we touched on it before, to avoid getting in the trap of not turning down work because you're afraid that work won't come again if you say no. So, for example, having, say you have two jobs that you work simultaneously or something like that, and then a third freelance opportunity comes up, and then possibly a fourth, don't do it.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like rating opportunities. You're like, oh my gosh, this is the feast period everyone was talking about. I've got
yeah.
to take all of them. That's not how that works.
And I
You're
think,
one
yeah, and it's
person.
it's also the money too, because you're like, oh my
Yeah.
god, I can make some money to squirrel away, which I say, and I never squirrel it away. But I find myself in this trap because I've touched on this before on a personal issue, on a personal note, that I paid alimony, so I basically had my regular job, which went to the alimony and lived off freelance. So I fell into the trap of I just took any and all freelance that came in and burned myself out basically. It was a total time suck. My family was mad because I was like constantly working, and I definitely overpromised, and even though I met my deadlines, I don't feel that it was like my highest quality work.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point to make because especially when the economy's down or maybe you may be doing freelancing full time. That's entirely possible. And it may not be because you decided that's what you want to do. It might be out of necessity. Maybe you lost your main source of income and now you're solely reliant on freelancing. And so you may feel like you've got to grab as much as you can while it's here, and that's true to a point, but you're only one person, right? We only have 24 hours in a day. We all get the same number of hours in a day. And at some point, you still have to sleep. So you have to make sure that you're doing a balance. If realistically you cannot complete the all of the work that you've been given without working clear close to
Mm-hmm.
24 hours, you really need to look and reassess and say, okay, this is only how much I can do. The
Right.
other part of that, which I was super, super good at, and this is not a compliment, this is terrible, but I was really good at when I first started freelancing, was the dreaded overpromising and underdelivering. And for
Yes.
me, 100%, I'll be very honest, I sucked at deadlines when I first started out.
Yes.
And I did because I took on so much. And then not only did I take on so much, because I was so excited and grateful to have the work, I would let the clients dictate the deadline. We'll get into
Oh my God,
other
that's such a
do's and
good
don'ts.
point. Yes, to flip
And
the script on that. Yes, sorry. Go ahead.
yes, no, totally. And you have these clients, you're so excited, you're grateful to have these clients, you're building up your roster. But then, some of them can be a little bit of, they can be divas. Some of them
Yeah.
can be a little bit demanding. And so they'll tell you, look, I have 100 pages. Can you get it to me by the end of the week? And it's Monday at 5 p.m. when they're asking this. And you already know you have probably the equivalent of 400 other pages you've got to get done. And what do you say? Absolutely. Yes, I can
Yep.
totally do this, because you don't want to say no. You want to keep them happy. But then what happens? You're not going to get 500 plus pages done in 5 days. You could if you close your eyes and just say, wee. It's
Yeah,
totally
exactly.
possible. But quality pages, not going to happen in that amount of time, realistically. And so what happens is one of two things. You will 100% miss your deadline, or you will come up with some, you can either come up with a creative excuse as to what happened, my dog
And
ate
believe
it,
you me,
or
I came up with
the
some doozies.
gremlins, whatever. Or worse, the worst is to turn in shoddy work. And you don't want to do that, because guess what? You're going to lose your clients faster that way. So being honest up front, if you can't make the deadline, you need to be able to say, hey, that's not realistic. Remember, you're the one in charge. You're the boss. This is your shingle that you've put up. This is your business. So the client shouldn't be telling you, oh, this needs to be done by this time. I'm not saying they can't, but you have to realize that you have a voice and you have ownership, because this is your business. It is much, much worse to say yes and not complete the goal than say no. And the worst you get is maybe a client that says, I wasn't happy that you said no.
Yes. Yep.
It's not worth it, because at the end of the day, like we mentioned before, if you are very good at what you do, it is a small circle. People talk, rumors travel, your
Yep.
rep will travel way ahead of you.
And you'd be
So
surprised, like, how
seriously,
much they travel. Like, it's such a small
yeah,
industry.
it
It's a huge
totally is.
industry, but it's a small industry, so to speak, of
Yeah.
the network. Like, you're constantly, it doesn't matter how many agencies I've been to, there's always
Yep.
someone there that I've worked with before.
There's going to be some overlap. So the last thing you want to do is to ruin or tarnish your reputation, because you keep taking on more than you can actually realistically do and realistically complete. And I have stories for days of the wildest, in the best way, opportunities that I've ever had, like for some huge publishers, for some amazing authors and clients. But because I spread myself way too thin, I'm lost out on them because I was taking on way too much. And that's just really important. You're better off keeping the volume reasonable. I'm not saying that you can't stretch yourself. Obviously, you can, but stagger your deadlines. Don't put yourself in a position where you have three deadlines on the same day. That's
Yeah.
just, don't do that. Make sure you're spacing them out. Something else, and I know this is technically not in the topic, but it's related, because I hear a lot of people talk about this, about padding your hours. Don't do
Oh
that.
my God, yeah.
Please don't do that. Don't get cute and be like, oh, technically, the level of effort that I put in is the equivalent of this many hours. So I'm going to go ahead and
Mm,
bill for 8 only, even though I only did 2 hours.
yeah, no. Because you'll always, can't do that anyway, just for, that's how I roll. I can't be dishonest, but
It's
in
called
times
integrity.
I've
Right.
thought about it, like desperate times and everything, but I could never
Yes.
ever
It'll
bring
be very,
myself to do it because I consider it a blessing.
Absolutely.
to have this work, and I never want to jeopardize it. And I know, Nicole, you and I have run into people that do that, and that's how you ruin yourself.
Yeah.
But also, the one thing, don't, on the flip side of that, don't charge less because you think that,
Oh yeah,
you want to
definitely.
keep them as a client. So say it took you 4 hours and you're like, I don't feel comfortable billing for that. I'm going to bill for 3.5. Don't do that either.
Yeah, absolutely. To Sam's point, don't argue with yourself. And I say this as someone who has done this before. Don't argue with yourself and say, oh my God, it took me 20 hours, but I don't feel right billing 20. What will they think? Is it going to be too much, too little?
Yeah, exactly.
Bill, bill the time you actually worked. That's plain and simple. If you have the receipts to show this is how much time it took me, this is what I actually did, you don't need to argue with yourself there. Where you should be second guessing and looking yourself with a side eye is if you're like, technically speaking, I should really bill this much because I could have done this other client over here and I could have done this other job over here. So I'm just going to go ahead and bill them for the privilege
Oh,
of
that's a
helping
good
you.
point, Nicole. I didn't even think of that. Oh, you made me miss this job, so I'm going to build that into my price. I didn't even think of
Yeah,
that,
like that's
actually.
like don't do that, guys. Like
Yeah, no.
bill your time. Like bill for the time that you actually spent doing the job because trust me, like it will come back to haunt you if you
Hmm.
don't, whether it's because the client feels, oh my gosh, I didn't realize it was going to take this much time. And maybe it may not even be that they suspect that you're padding your hours. It could just be like, man, this is too expensive. I'm thinking it's going to take 10 hours and I'm getting consistently billed 40 hours. I can't afford 40 hours, so I'm going to go somewhere else. So just
Yes,
build.
especially if there's another freelancer too that you're working with,
Exactly.
and their bills are coming in at for 4 hours, and you're, yeah.
It's just being
Um.
honest. This is, I know this seems basic, but it's just be honest, have integrity. Those things matter. I promise they do matter. And you'll find that when you do have integrity and when you are a person of honesty, doors will open up for you. And I know that sounds very hippie, pie in the sky kind of thing, but it's super true. Do the right thing, be a person of integrity, and things will unfold the way you need them to because you're going to be pursuing things the right way rather than trying to cut corners because that never works.
No, I do though. I do round up my hours though. If it's
Oh yeah,
like,
that's like
yeah.
different. Like if you work 57 minutes, guys, that's an hour. And you will find that most clients will actually, depending on how your setup is, you'll have to bill to either the quarter, the half an hour, or whatever the case is. We're not saying quibble over 60 seconds or 3 minutes or whatever. We're saying when you clearly didn't work the time and you're like, technically, I could have been working this. So I'm going to go ahead and throw in these extra 8 hours because, yeah, that's what we're talking about. Don't pad your hours, guys. So that's, I know that's a little side rant, but it was so top of mind because I've heard this. I've heard people say that that's something you should do as a freelancer is you want to pad your time. And I'm like, why? But why? If you have a plumber or a contractor come to your house and they're doing work and it's an hour's worth of work, you don't expect to pay them for 4 hours. You expect to pay them for the time that they worked. So it's the same thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just remember too. I know this is like slightly off topic, but what I always remembered when I was billing for my hours is someone I used to work with, whenever she would apply for a new job or whatever, she would lie about the salary like in a huge way.
Oh boy.
And for a time it worked, but then it didn't. Like, and that was it. Because once over time, like when HR did the background check, they
Yeah.
didn't really get into salary for a while, but then they did. So yeah, it bit her in the ass really hard.
Yeah, keep that in mind. Like things will come back to haunt you if you're doing sometimes Sam and I do a lot of the freelancing that we do is through agencies. Sometimes those agencies do background checks. Don't
Oh
lie on
yeah.
your background checks, please, people. Please, I promise you, that never works out. Please do not
Mm-mm.
lie on your background checks. Please tell the truth. Please do not, especially don't lie about roles that you have held. When it comes to agencies, oh my gosh, it is such a small pond. And I'm not saying that agencies aren't a dime a dozen because you can probably toss a coin and hit an agency. There's a lot of them. But I'm talking about the ones that command like the bulk of the market. That's a very small circle. You will find once you get into this, especially if you're doing mostly work through agencies, there is so much overlap with not just the agencies, but also the clients, the companies that you're going to work or come across. Thinking that you can be cute and say, oh, yeah, I totally did this work over here. I have been in interviews before where I mentioned a role that I held, that I actually held, not made up, to be clear, like a role that I held for a very short period of time. And one of the interviewers would be like, oh my gosh, tell me more about that because they happen to have worked there. Wouldn't it be awkward if you're on an interview and you pulled something straight out of you nowhere and they're like, oh my God, someone, I just came off of that role. Tell me, did you work with, and you look like a deer in the headlights because you didn't actually work there. That's awkward.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah.
Don't,
It's like
don't do
George
that.
Costanza, like from Seinfeld. Just
Please
sleeping
don't
under
do
the
that.
desk. Or no,
Yeah,
Kramer. Was it Kramer? That
I don't
yeah.
know. But seriously, just be honest. I'll give you a very recent example. I'm going to talk in big generalities here, but Sam knows what I'm talking about. So I had a recent experience where a role that I was at, we decided to part ways. It was a, what do they call it when you divorce and it's like a mutual
Mutual
decision?
separation or yeah.
We mutually decided this was not a good fit. And very shortly after, I was tapped for an opportunity and they were curious to know, oh, tell us more about your role. Who did you report in? Who were you working with? Because they had existing relationships at that organization. Now, I could have said, I didn't think that was a good opportunity or an experience. So I could have like embellished or at least omitted some things. But again, I don't believe in doing that because it will always come back to bite you. And it all worked out. But imagine if I had said, oh, I'm going to not say some things or I'm going to omit some things because I think it could go this way. It takes a lot more effort to lie, people.
Oh my
Like,
God,
lying
yeah.
is exhausting. So just tell the truth. If it's for you, it's going to work out. Again, I know I sound like a fortune cookie right now, but it's super true. If it's meant for you, it will work out. You don't have to do, if you have to do mental gymnastics or come up with a bunch of
Oh, I like
stories,
that. Mental gymnastics.
like seriously, if you have to do all of that to make something work out for you, then it's not really for you, is it? You're like fabricating it because you're trying to make it all work out. So what I'm saying is the path of least resistance, the simplest option is always the best option, which is tell the truth. Just be honest. Please, just save yourself some time. And it's just a lot less hassle, a lot less headache. Maybe you don't get the opportunity. There was another similar instance, which Sam also knows about,
I know
where
everything.
she knows all things, where I was going to get in, I was being considered for an opportunity, but it ended up there was a former individual that I worked with at that location. Let's just say we weren't besties. I'll just put it
Oh
there.
God, yeah.
Let's just leave it there. And it went as far as the offer. And then they retracted the offer because my bestie said some things. And that's where we're at. And what I will say about myself is, and Sam knows this about me, to know me is to love me or to hate me. There's no in between. Either you
I love
love
you
who
so
I am
much. Yeah.
or you hate me. And I'm cool with that because I'm comfortable in my skin. She was obviously at the opposite end of the spectrum. Okay. And she made that known. And therefore, the offer vaporized. And I don't say that, I say that to say that one, circles are small. Two, I decided to, I moved on from it, but I wasn't trying to like make something that wasn't, right? So, what would it have done me to have said, oh my God, yes, this person, like, we had the best relationship ever. She was amazing.
Thank
And
God you didn't say that. You know what I mean?
like, how awkward would that have been? Like, yeah, we braided each other's hair and we had friendship bracelets, and it was like totally cool. No, it wasn't that. And so, like, just don't make stuff up. I don't
Mm,
know. I guess that's really all I'm saying. And also, don't crap on people because you don't like them.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's their livelihood. I'm still mad about this whole situation, Nicole, that
Oh,
happened with you. It like burns my biscuits when I think about it.
yeah, don't do that. Here's the thing. First of all, it wasn't a situation, at least from my perspective, where there would have been that much interaction. Maybe I'm wrong there. Who knows? But what I was saying is because you're holding a grudge, you're going to actually interfere with someone else's livelihood. That's goofy. Don't do that either, guys. Just move
Yeah.
on with your life.
Oh, yeah.
Just move on. I used to work with a coworker. She would say that every time because we would talk about things and I felt like she was much like she would take things in stride a lot better than I would or let things go a lot more quickly. And I just couldn't get that. And so I just asked her one day, I said, how do you do that? We had just literally had a crucial situation happen and then she's, oh, moving on. I'm like, how do you do that? It's just, oh, the things that I can't fix, I just put them in a bubble and blow them away.
Oh my God. I love that.
And it sounded so simplistic, but seriously, I think about that all the time and it makes me laugh to this day. And when things happen, if someone doesn't like me, if things don't pan out, I put them in a bubble and I blow them away because I can't control it. And to have so much mental energy that you're still holding a grudge on someone who's not in your life to the point that you're going to actually say disparaging things, that's, I don't know, that doesn't seem mature to me.
No, not
Maybe
at
it's
all.
just me. But so anyway, I didn't mean to get on a tangent on a rant. I'm just saying we're all trying to make it out here, guys. That's really all it is. The average person is just trying to make it. It's just trying to make it through the day. It's just trying to make it through the week, the month, whatever. And it's really jacked up when you're going out of your way to deliberately or be malicious towards them because of some perceived slight or something that happened certainly long enough to get over it. So
Oh,
anyway,
yeah.
we'll leave it there.
Yeah. And yeah, no, I was just thinking about what you said, and it's just so true. It's like sometimes I feel like it's high school
I would go so far
as
as say
you're like,
elementary school. I would
yeah,
say
well, yeah,
sometimes
that's
elementary school.
that's even closer. Just, yeah, people trying to,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
like
just
it's the equivalent
messing
of
with.
like pulling the pigtails. But then again, I feel like people only did that when they liked you. So I guess that's not technically true.
But yes,
So I
so it
don't know.
boils down to just lay it all out there, like up front, so like nothing can
Yeah,
come back.
be upfront and then also on the flip side, because I will admit that it took me longer than it should have to get over that. And maybe it's because of the way it was handled, let's be honest. But on the flip side, let stuff go. If you find yourself, I'm trying to bring it back to the topic at hand because I know we've slid way off the track here. But
As we
what
usually do, which I think works amazingly.
I think it does, but it's still relevant. So if you look at the topic of overpromising and underdelivering, okay, you messed up, right? You took on way more than you should have, and now you've got 3 deadlines that you've missed, and clients are not happy with you. Do what you need to do to make it right, but don't beat yourself up. Don't spend time beating yourself up because that's not going to fix the problem. It's not going to magically open a portal and take you back in time so that you can correct what you did. So the faster that you say, look, I messed up, take it on the chin and move on, the better it's going to be for your mental sanity and just for your self esteem, even. Because to me, I don't know about you, Sam, but I feel that my self esteem is very tied to my performance and to how good I feel about the work that I do. And if I'm not feeling good about myself, I also start second guessing myself when I'm doing my work.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Like I have to be in a good place mentally,
Yeah.
about because then I start doubting my ability, as you
Right.
said.
Yeah. So just something to keep in mind. And also, if you do overpromise and underdeliver, if you miss your deadline, please the in those cases, highly recommend, and I have done this, discount your rate. Throw in a bonus. Hey, I for the delay, I'm gonna knock off X amount. Don't then say to yourself, no, I'm gonna bill the full. You messed up. And if you want to keep that client, you should give them something worth their while or worth a reason for them to continue with you.
Yeah, kind of like a coupon
Exactly.
in a way to draw them in.
And also be honest there too. And let me be clear, like I started, like I said, when I started freelancing was back in 1997. I was much too young when I started freelancing. And I say that in the sense that, boy, you do some stupid stuff when you're young, maybe still now.
I say I still do stupid stuff.
You're actually, I was juggling freelancing with also going to, I was in college at the time. And so you really need to be honest. If you're not going to make the deadline, don't wait for the client to come looking for you. That's just, don't do that. I'm saying that as someone who has done that. I'm saying that as someone who has not opened her email for the entire day because somehow the email was going to come and get her because they
Yes.
missed the deadline. So, look, this is a real talk over here. It might sound quirky or weird, but that we're just giving you the real. This is real life. The email will not swallow you whole if you decide to open it and send an email to your client and say, I'm not going to make the deadline. It's going to be okay. The world is not going to spin off its axis. You will be fine. What I
Yeah.
suggest is if you realize you're going to miss the deadline, don't wait until the deadline has come and gone to say something and then go, oh, hey. No, say something early, as soon as possible, 2 to 3 days in advance. If you think you might still make the deadline, be communicate. That word.
Communicative. Yeah.
Coffee, apparently. Thank you. That word. Over communicate. That's better. With your client, keep them in the loop. Let them know, hey, I may need a little extra time, or would it be okay? And start with like maybe your more low key clients first. If you have clients that are a little bit more laid back and just don't have as like high a pressing deadline, then see if you can adjust those deadlines and then make the ones that are a little bit harder to move. Just something to think about. But yeah, over promising and under delivering, don't be that person.
Oh,
Don't
also,
be.
just to go back a little bit,
Yeah.
one thing that helps me when I take on jobs and everything, I know this might be silly or whatever, is to compartmentalize and make a running list of everything. And then
Yes.
what I do is I put estimated times of how long I think a project will take
Yep.
and then build it out from there.
Yeah. Agreed.
And then
Um,
personal feelings and stuff like that, like we talked about with that's I compartmentalize things like, hey, I really need to get this done. So is this fixable? My issue.
yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, sorry to circle back. I just wanted
No,
to, yeah.
that's good to actually keep in mind. And even to that point, use your calendar, whether it's Outlook, whether it's your phone, whatever. Put deadlines on yourself. So if the client tells you it's due next week, Monday, set your deadline for Friday or Saturday or something like that. I don't know about you, but like once I've set up, would have put a deadline on my calendar, even if that's not the real deadline, that's what I think it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's what I go by. And so I tell myself, oh my God, I only have this much time to get it done. You'll get reminders, obviously, if you're using an Outlook calendar or even, I think Gmail, you can set up reminders. I don't know for sure because I've never used it, but set reminders for yourself. Put yourself, set time aside, block out when you're going to work on this versus when you're going to work on that, and actually chunk out your day. Even if you're only working for yourself 100% of the time, you still have to put yourself on a schedule. You still have to be organized. So use your calendar, take advantage of it, use reminders, whatever you need to make sure that you are chunking out your time accordingly.
Yes, exactly. Oh boy.
Yes, it's a very hot button topic. And as you saw, we went on a couple of meanders along the way.
But I
But
think the meanders are important.
yes, I agree. That's at least for today what we have to talk about or what we have to say on overpromising and underdelivering. Don't do it. That's the
Yeah.
short of it.
Just take on what you can handle, even though the money may seem so tempting.
Exactly. And the other thing you can do possibly is if you do have an opportunity come along and they do have a specific deadline that's not realistic for you, you can try to negotiate. You can say, hey, I'm actually booked until this time. Would you be open to this delivery date? you may be surprised. If you do really good work, they're going to probably, not they're going to probably, they're going to want to work with you anyway. So they will likely be willing to wait unless they're on a very super tight turnaround.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Honesty up front is always the best.
honesty is the best policy. Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah.
Yes, we're cornballs. We own it. That's
Yes, we love
okay.
it. We
That's
embrace our weirdness.
like we have been this weird for a while now, so we're definitely in acceptance.
Yep. We're in our acceptance phase.
Yes, totally. So yeah, that's what we got on overpromising and underdelivering. I'm sure we'll visit this topic again. I'm certain of it. But yeah, that's for another day. So let's move on, Sam. Where are we going?
No, you pick.
Oh, okay. Let's do tips and tricks. Yeah, let's save the juicy one for last. That's what she said.
Oh, that was a good one.
Mm.
Damn it. I haven't had enough caffeine yet to even. Damn, I'm in awe of you.
Yeah, I'm like less than half of my coffee is left, so I'm perking up over here.
I have to get another drink shortly, apparently. Okay, tips and tricks. I'm trying to think. You go first and then I'll piggyback on that. I'm just looking at my list.
Yeah, cool. So obviously, if you're not an editor or proofreader, you're probably going to be like, ugh, why are we talking about this? So if you want to go grab a coffee or go grab something and come back in a little bit, feel free. But I think you should stick around because you might find some parallels. You never know. And plus, maybe we won't just talk about editing and proofreading. You'll have to stick around to find out. I would say, as an editor and proofreader, my and I don't think we talk, I guess we're going to talk specifically about review tips and tricks, the actual work. Okay. So I just want to, I'm just
Yeah, we
doing
could
this.
do it. I think any sort of tip and trick we have would
Oh,
help. I think throw it
mhm.
out there, like stuff that we've learned to help make reviews easier or
Okay, okay, I like it. I like it. So, something that I do as an editor and proofreader, which is, in my opinion, pretty clutch. And if you have been doing this for a while, you probably already do this. But it surprises me how many don't do this. So, I'll share this one. This is like one of my fave tips and tricks. And this relates to PDFs. And Sam
okay.
alluded to it in the last session, but if you're reviewing a file and the file that you are reviewing happens to be in PDF format, I there's a caveat, but we'll get back to the caveat in a minute. So I will take that file and I will convert it to Word. That is huge. And the reason why you want to do that is because it lets you do spell check.
Yes, that was my yep.
That is, it's, I'm telling you, it's a game changer.
And you taught me that, by the way.
Yay! See, it really works, guys. And that's actually something back in our days when we were working jointly together at a place that we won't mention. That is something that we actually rolled out because it's very helpful. There is an important thing to keep in mind, though, when it comes to this. And when you have your own clients, this will probably be an easier thing for you to do. If your PDF is not high resolution, and you'll be able to tell because, and the simplest way I can tell you of how to tell whether your PDF is high resolution or not is this. If you're in your PDF and as you're zooming it out, it's getting blurry or pixelated, you've got a trash PDF. That's just the bottom line. That means that your PDF is not high resolution. But if you have a PDF and as you're zooming out, the resolution, basically the crispness, the sharpness of the letters and the images still holds even at 500%, you've got yourself a beauty that you can work with quite easily. If you have the low resolution, the trash PDF, reach out to your client and ask them for a high resolution PDF. I promise you it'll be totally worth it because then you can take that PDF and you can convert it to Word. The reason why that's also important is because typically speaking, low resolution PDFs are created from scanned files, meaning
Yep.
that either someone scanned them with a throwback scanner. People still use scanners, I think. But anyway, you get what I'm saying. Either someone scanned it or they did screenshots. And either way, whenever you do one of those two things, it will actually reduce the quality of your document. And therefore, the more that it's reduced, the lower your resolution. So if you can reach out to your client and have them provide you a high resolution PDF, you'll be in heaven. That is literally the path of least resistance. However, if your client either does not have a high resolution PDF or cannot provide you one, there's like a part two that you can do. And the part two is to use the OCR feature on your Adobe, I should say. And I guess for the record, if you're gonna be an editor and proofreader, you've got to have Adobe, guys. That's just, I'm not saying that all your files will be PDFs, but a good bulk of them will be. So get you an Adobe registration license. That sounded terrible. I know that's not what it's called. The words together.
I use to the point I have what is it? The creative
Creative
from
Cloud.
Adobe. Yes, thank you. Yep.
Yes. Yeah. So if you are a multifaceted freelancer, Sam is a designer as well as an editor. I'm a designer, I'm a dabbler when it comes to design. I do not consider myself a designer per se, but I know what looks good. So I guess that counts. Also, I do social media, I do content there. So I need Photoshop and other things because I do make some editings. Yes, that's what I do. Image editing, retouches, and so on. So Adobe Creative Cloud will probably be your best option because then they bundle a bunch of programs in there and you pay, I think it's $30 a month or something like that.
Yep.
But if you want to start with just Adobe Acrobat, which is the bare minimum that you should have as an editor and proofreader, that's I think also $30 a month. So you might as well just get the whole thing, right?
Yeah, because you never know when you'll need it, actually.
Exactly. So highly recommend Adobe Creative Cloud. No, we're not getting paid for this yet. I'm sure they'll come back to us and say, here's a really cool promo code that you can give your people.
Yeah,
And we'll be like,
that's what
remember
we
that
hope
time?
one day is to be able to disseminate all that fun stuff.
Yeah, oh, it's totally going to happen. This is just the ground floor. We got to start somewhere, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, sorry, back to what I was saying. You want to, if you don't have a high resolution PDF, you can use OCR. And I know the first word is optical and the third word is recognition. I don't remember the C. So I'm not going to try to pretend to remember. But what it does is it will recognize the text in your PDF. And the reason why that's important is once the text is recognized, then you can convert that to a Word file and do your spell check. Full disclosure, mileage will vary on this. Sometimes, if the quality is really poor, you're not going to get a great file to work from, but it will give you at least more than you would have if you were trying to do by hand. Because, as we've mentioned before, spell checks are important. Yes, editing, proofreading, awesome. If that's what you do for a living, you still want to spell check your work because we're human, we can miss stuff. So you want to be able to try to spell check. As of today's date, you cannot spell check a PDF. I
Yeah,
don't know
no, I wish
how.
they would. Yeah.
It's bananas to me, as advanced as Adobe is, that they have yet to roll out a spell check feature. Yes, you're going to say, oh, but there's totally a spell check feature in Adobe. Yes, folks, for comments. I'm talking about spell checking your actual file. So as of today's date, the only spelling feature available is to spell check the comments that you add to an Adobe document. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about actually spell checking the content. If you have a newsletter that's in a PDF format, if you have a website, if you have an email, whatever the case is, you definitely are going to want to convert that to Word because otherwise it's not going to,
Yeah, pick up anything.
it isn't. And then to that point, relatedly, if you're working on a PDF, but you can see that it was once a PowerPoint, and you'll be able to tell usually by the orientation and the way it looks that it was a presentation. You don't have to export it to Word, you can export it to PowerPoint because that's going to come out cleaner for you anyway. If you can export it back to its original source file, that's always going to work better for you when it comes to reviewing the content. So, just another kind of tip to keep in mind. It's not always going to be perfect, but if you can, it will save you a ton of time. And then one last thing I will say, Sam, and I'll turn it over to you. Another really awesome feature that I don't think it's talked about in Adobe, which is my jam, is the compare feature in Adobe. I don't know if you guys know this, but Adobe allows you to compare two files against each other. And it is so freaking amazing, guys. So if you are working on a job and you have to check it against a previous version, here's what you do. You take version one. And typically, what I'll do is I'll download them to my computer. I'll tag the first version as old. I know, super original. And I'll tag the new version as new. And I'll save them in my downloads folder because I'm just going to download them temporarily. And you go into Adobe, there is a compare feature. And you can do one of two things. You can compare the file overall. So it will even check if images have shifted, moved, deleted, whatever the case. It will actually do a visual inspection of both files. Obviously, they have to be two different versions of the same file. You can't compare two
Yeah.
different files. That's everything's going to be wrong. So you can compare them that way. Or another really cool feature is you can compare text only. So if you're only checking to see if anything changed in the text, you actually, there's a checkbox that shows you how you can just compare the text. When I tell you the amount of time that has saved me, oh my gosh, so much time. Highly recommend. It is super, super helpful. It has helped me catch things because things have dropped off. Now, I'm not saying you can't do this by hand. You can absolutely do a line scan, which is when you're checking to make sure that text hasn't either dropped off or things haven't been introduced. You can absolutely do that, but you can save yourself a lot of time if you do it in Adobe. I'm just saying. So that's my little rant about Adobe. Adobe, please send us some commissions,
Yeah.
please.
We love you, Adobe.
We do. We totally do. Yes. If you guys want to give us a call, please do. And
Yeah.
I'll turn it over to you, Sam. Those were my
I just have
biggest.
a quick one. That's what she said. One website I live by, especially since I go between AMA style and AP style, is titlecaseconverter.com.
Ooh.
This has been like the saving grace because sometimes going between styles, you get tripped up with the capitalization and titles. This title case converter has every style. Unfortunately, it's like one of those websites that's free and has like a gazillion pop-up ads and everything, but you'll find it in there embedded. You just type out or cut and paste whatever title you need and you click the style. Like
Nice.
I live on AMA, and then it capitalizes it for you. So I use it as a double check to make sure, because sometimes you second guess yourself
Yeah.
and you're like, Pete, that doesn't look right. And then you're like, oh, it was right. Between that and obviously Merriam-Webster, I live on, I
Yes.
just use these as double checks all the time. Oh,
Yeah.
excuse me, I swallowed down wrong. And I'm trying to think of the, yeah, I
That
know.
one was too easy. I'm not even going to say
I know,
anything.
just let it rip there. I'm just, yeah, so those are the two sites I use daily. And I also like, I know this just sounds silly, but always to double check myself when I'm working on certain brands is I actually use the brand's website as well.
Oh, yeah.
Just to, I know that sounds silly and like obvious, but
Mm,
sometimes when you're looking at a piece, like I'll just double check the website to see if there's any discrepancies. And I'll just be like in my comment per the website. Just call, I think they
absolutely.
appreciate, yeah, when you call that out. Like you would think they want to do things consistently. I like to do a consistency check and then make notes for myself for jobs coming down the line
No,
brand.
that's definitely a huge one, and I completely agree with checking the website of the brand that you're working on. That is huge. There are certain like graphs that they use pretty frequently, especially if you're doing marketing copy. You'll tend to see the same either statements over and over again or the same graphs. So, like the number one biologic that does Y. And you want to check the website because a lot of times it'll show you how they consistently use that statement. And if it doesn't jive with what you're looking at, you can flag it. And also, honestly, it's bonus points for you with your client because you're like, oh, look at them going above and beyond and making sure that everything looks up to snuff. So that'll earn you some bonus points with your clients. So yeah, I 100% agree about checking the website, making sure that things are, at least you're flagging things that don't look consistent for sure. So yes, fully agreed on that. In terms of other tips and tricks when it comes to reviewing, this is probably a pretty obvious one, but if you're working on a document, especially if it's a long document, once you finish reviewing it, especially hopefully you have time to do this, give it a cooling off period. So I like to review a file, like especially if it's something that's dense or really layered, and I like to give myself a day and go back to it because it gives you a break. And also you can go back to it with fresh eyes, taking a break. And maybe you can't do a full day, but maybe you can do a few hours and then come back to it. You can find things that you probably didn't see the first pass.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And do you, I don't know, to your point, I always do a second read. If I have the time, I will say they give me a couple days, like I'll read through it and then maybe the next day I'll do it again as fresh set of eyes.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
just for that. I just want, I guess for me, like I get terrified that I'm gonna miss something so obvious. Like I tend to sometimes mark up like super tiny things and then I'm terrified like I miss like a huge like whopping misspelling or something.
Yeah, like I call that my paranoia check. I always
Yes.
do a paranoia check, right? Like definitely before I send the file off to look for some specific things. Oh, this is another one that I just thought of. This works especially well. I mean, it could also work in a PDF if I'm being honest, as long as the PDF is readable. And by readable, I mean that you can do control find and actually look up text. If it's a scam document, you're going to want to make sure that you do recognize text first, and then this will work for you. I don't know about this if you do this, Sam, but one of the things I do is if I find the same error more than twice, I will do a global find and replace for it.
Yes.
So, and I do it as soon as I come across it so I don't forget. So, let me try to come up with a really good example. Of course, now that I'm putting myself on the spot.
Well,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
especially with say you're doing like an IVA or like I caught something like it was like a symbol or whatever. So I was like, oh crap. I did a search for the symbol everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. That's another really good one actually. That just made me think of something that I just looked at recently. The plus minus symbol. That
Yes.
you know what I'm talking about. The plus minus symbol. It's an actual symbol, guys. It's a plus sign with a minus sign underneath it. They're stacked on top of each other. That's what she said. I'm sorry. I'll try to behave. It's too early. I know. So you want to make sure that you're looking for that. So when someone says change this to a plus minus symbol, it does not mean do plus slash minus.
Yes. Oh, that happens all the time.
That I'm saying that because this is a very common error. And so if let's say you're reviewing a document and plus slash minus number one, and you fix it, plus slash minus number two, that is when you want to stop and say, and that's you're not going to say, you're going to do. You're going to take that plus slash minus instance, you're going to crank up your find and replace feature in Word, which is Control H on your keyboard, in case you're wondering. You're going to paste in plus slash minus, and in the replace field, you're going to put in the actual symbol and you replace it all at once. Make sure your track changes are on, and then you're done. You don't have to think about it again because you've done a Control H slash global replace. That was super, super smooth right there. So, yes, that is something I do because I always worry that if I don't do it when I first see it, I will forget about it. So you can do it at the end, but if you're going to do it at the end, write it down. Make a note of what that was that you came across, that inconsistency, so that you can then go back in and replace it all at once. Something else that you can do all at once, depending on what your client preference is. Typically, clients want their quotation marks to be curly, not straight. Not always, but for the most part, that's typically like the overwhelming presentation. You can do a global replace for that as well. whether it's the single or the double quotation mark, you can do a global replace for that. So just ways to streamline your review process to actually come up with a system for it. And whatever that is for you, whether the first thing you do is do a global replace or the first thing you do is a cold read, whatever that is, just come up with a method or system that works for you and just keep it consistent throughout. And you're going to see some huge time savings doing it that way.
Yeah, and I know, I think you do too, Nicole. I create a checklist of things, like my own checklist. Like when you work at major companies, they have their own like editorial checklist. I have my own because when you take on multiple jobs, you're kind of like, sometimes my brain's like all over the place. So
Yep.
this brings me back to focus. Hey, did I run spell check? Did I check the symbols? Did I check the dates and job codes?
Yes.
Eyeballs,
Exactly.
capitalization. I have a little, and they provide brand books too, but I think sometimes it's hard to constantly flip through like numerous pages. So I just have like little cheat sheets, especially like ISIs, and I have all the ISI documents
Oh, yeah, definitely.
when we for different clients.
And to that point, Sam, one of the things that it used to be a lot less common than it is today, and Sam, you can weigh in on whether that you think that's also the case. Style sheets are your friend. Way back when I started, typically speaking, as an editor, you would have to create the style sheet yourself and give it to the client, meaning that, and what I mean by a style sheet is, yes, you have a style guide or brand book that the company usually has. A style sheet is either something that they give you or something that you create that goes through either the treatment that you did or the nuance when it comes to that brand. Let's say that brand always capitalizes their brand name. That may not be in the style guide because maybe it hasn't been updated yet, but you would add that to the style sheet because it kind of works as a map for your client as well so they can see what changes you made and almost like the rationale behind it or something like that. Maybe they told you, hey, we want to go with AMA for everything, but they sent you a job that has healthcare as one word.
Oh
AMA
yeah.
says healthcare is two words. And so you put that in your handy dandy style sheet because maybe they haven't updated their style guide. And so you can put in your style sheet healthcare, two words. And typically it's like a table. I've used an Excel file, which has worked really great. And the reason why I love Excel files when it comes to style sheets is because you can actually sort it by alphabetically, and then you can filter it and drill down to find whatever you're looking for. And so I usually just do an Excel file that has two columns. Column one will have the term or whatever it is, and then column two will have the explanation or the treatment.
Yep.
And that has worked really well. And like I said, it's just a great way to show consistency, show that extra oomph to your client that you're not just on top of it, but that here's what I did, here's how I approached it. Speaking of, that's actually another really good point in terms of global replaces. Something like
Oh
that,
yep.
you could do a global replace on healthcare. Though, here's the caveat on that.
Yeah.
Don't do the global replaces on your references section.
Oh my God. Yeah. Don't do that. I've done that. Oh my God.
For the love of God, please don't. And here's why I'm saying that. Your references section will be, oh my God, oh, here's a good word, a hodgepodge
Ooh, I like that.
of different treatments. What I mean by that is that most of the times your references section is going to be made up of journals, websites, books, and all these different things.
And
That
posters.
means
Yeah.
different entities that all think healthcare either is spelled one way or the other.
Oh
So
my
if
God.
you if
Yeah.
you go in guns blazing and do a global replace on your references section as well, oh dear Lord.
Yeah. I've done. Oh my God. I thought when I first started, I thought the references could be edited, like titles, and oh
Yeah,
no, they
no.
can't.
And that also to that point, if you're working in US English and
Oh, the
let's say
references. Yeah, they're in like
oh, oh,
British.
you
Yep.
know what yeah, you know where I'm going. There are words that are either going to be we get really excited. Can you tell we really love editing and proofreading
Yeah.
yet?
The S versus the Z in UK spellings. Yeah.
Yes. So there are certain nuances when you're British English versus American English, and the journals don't care about those because if it's a British journal, they're going to
Yep.
spell it how they spell it. And if
So
you
if
go
they
in,
don't care, you don't care.
yeah, and so if you go in and do a global replace because the client told you this is American English, and so globalize needs to go from IS to IZ, and you include your references section, ouch.
Yeah.
So the way around that, because you're going to say to yourself, how the hell do I do a global replace without including my references section? Super easy. All you have to do is select everything but your references section, meaning you're selecting all of the text and then you do your global replace. So whatever you select is where the global replace will take
Yep.
place. And at some point, Sam, it might be cool to do some demos. Not today,
Yeah.
obviously, but we'll do some walkthroughs of some of the things we're talking about so you can see it, not just hear us talk about it, but see what that looks like in real time.
And also when we do that too, one thing that always trips me up and still to this day is reference styling.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe a little tiny tutorial on that as we do like search and replace and everything you were just talking about, just because, and the only reason I'm thinking of this is I was just working on a piece where they did a mix and match of AMA 10 and 11.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
fun.
it was, yeah, I was like, huh. So I don't know. I think that would be helpful
Yes.
for, yeah, to do a
And
variable data setup to like bracket, like it should be like author, title,
yes.
year, like a little
Yeah.
bracketed thing for people.
And depending on what you're working on, depending on what the client requires, you're going to either use AMA, it could be Chicago, it could be APA. They all have their own approach on your
Mm-hmm.
references. They are not the same. I promise y'all, it is not the same at all. And so it's good to know the differences. And Sam, as we were talking, I just had this idea. This could probably be a bonus episode. So, in case you guys don't know by now, maybe you don't, because I don't know if I've said it enough. I am a self proclaimed geek and nerd when it comes to technology and stuff. Yes, that is my happy place. I love to learn new programs, new software, new like little shortcuts and things like that. So I have some really cool, if I do say so myself, and I do, some really cool find and replaces you can do in Word using wildcard searches. And
Oh,
for example, I have a wildcard search that actually will global replace and change all of your hyphens and number ranges to dashes in a few
nice.
seconds. And we can show you how to do that. And wildcard searches, they sound very daunting, but they can be super cool and they will save you a lot of time. You can search for mixed terms, like terms that have numbers and letters, all these cool things. You can actually do, there's another shortcut I have that lets you find all of the acronyms in your document. That's also another really cool feature, especially if you need to have an abbreviations list. So, anyway, we'll make that a bonus episode because I think that'll probably take a good bit of time, and I don't think we'll be able to give it the time that it deserves if we try to squeeze it in as like a session in between everything else.
Yeah, and just in case you're wondering, Nicole is like a technology wizard. She is brilliant.
Oh,
I've learned so much from you. Actually, you have made my life a lot easier with your tips and tricks and shortcuts and things that you have come up with.
oh,
Your
go
brilliant
on.
mastermind of technology.
Do go on. No, good. Yeah, so I love me a good software program. I love me a good hack. I love me a good shortcut. So, yes, you will hear me talk a lot about different things that you can do to, because my life's motto is work smarter, not harder.
Exactly. But this kind of leads into the next topic, actually. Speaking of like software programs and stuff, is scams.
Yes. Oh my gosh, scams. We are gonna talk about it.
Oh,
Um,
God.
yeah, we still get approached for scams, guys. That it happens now in real time to this day. Yes, absolutely. Scams. Scams are the devil.
To try new programs and don't fall for the trial periods
Oh yeah.
for like editorial programs. I'm trying to think of the one that I fell for the trial period and I can't remember what it was.
Yes. So while Sam thinks of that,
It might
we
be a
can
while knowing my brain.
So we can paint some really broad strokes. Let's talk about scams in general. Scams are garbage. Nobody likes a scam. I don't know anyone who likes a scam. Whether it's someone who's offering you a position or a prince in Nigeria that's telling you've come into an inheritance of an imaginary aunt, whatever it is, scams suck. No one likes a scam, but they're getting more and more sophisticated. And so it's getting a little trickier to spot the scam. So we wanted to talk about that because it's happening so often now. So we want to make sure that you at least have put up your antennae. Yeah, every now and then when I say something like my heritage comes out because I'm like, how do you pronounce that again? Anyway, we want to help you guys out. So let me give you a few examples. Sometimes you will see a job and it looks amazing and you'll apply for the job. And not saying that this doesn't always happen, you get an instantaneous response. Yeah,
Yes.
it is
Oh
very
God.
possible. I'm not saying that you're not amazing. It is totally possible to get an instantaneous response for a job that you absolutely qualify for. The likelihood, though, low because you're like, how did you check my resume in 2 minutes? How did you do that? That should be a little bit of a red flag. Like your spidey senses should be tingling if you get an almost immediate response. But that's just like something you put in your back pocket. So if you have this really nicely polished job description that is online, and suddenly the person you're talking to, English is clearly not their first language because there's like typos, there is just a bunch of things that
Oh
don't make
yeah.
sense.
It's for an
Suddenly,
editing job, so that's even funnier.
yeah, suddenly it goes from like this fantastic, polished position to this individual who cannot string a sentence together. That should be flag number two. The other thing to look out for, I do this all the time, and I cannot emphasize this enough. When someone contacts you and tells you they're from a specific company, let's just say, okay, you've applied for an editing position at Pfizer. I'm totally making this up, but let's say you apply for an editing position at Pfizer and you get a response back within 30 seconds or whatever it is. And the person says, hi, I am the recruiter at Pfizer. So great to meet you. Blah, 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 blah. I want to set up some time to go over things with you. Look at their email address, guys. This sounds super obvious. Look at their email address.
Yep. I don't think it's
If,
obvious at all because
well,
no, I meant to your point, like it may
yeah,
seem obvious. No, I haven't looked at it myself. Like at first, yeah,
yes.
at first I'm like,
So,
"What?"
again, this is probably part of my conspiracy theory side of me. But the first thing I do when I get a response from someone is I look at their email. What am I looking for when I look at their email address? I'm looking to make sure that the company they claim they're from is the email address. And if it doesn't match, if it's a free email, Gmail, Yahoo, something other than Pfizer.com, exit immediately.
Yep.
It is a scam. It's 100% a scam. Pfizer or any reputable established company is not going to send you a recruiter that is using Gmail. That no. And look very closely because they could be slick and it says Amanda at Pfizer underscore at gmail.com. Something. It could be something like that funky. Make sure that the extension, and that is everything after the at symbol, lists the name of the company you applied to. If it's anything other than that, it is a scam. It is 100% a scam. On the other side of that, if it is a company that is not as well known, you can still use this trick. What I do is if I apply for a position, and typically if you're applying for a freelancing or an agency role, you're applying blind. And what I mean by that is you're not always going to know the name of the client at the outset. So you'll typically find out the name of the client after you've been contacted or the name of the company, right? So when someone contacts you, if you're not as familiar with the company, take that extension and punch it
Yes.
into Google. And so let's say I'm going to make up an agency because there's too many of them. Let's say the agency is XYZ, XYZ LLC. So if Amanda at XYZ.com contacts me, I'm going to take that URL, that web address, and put it into Google, xyz.com. If it says not found, if there is no website, it is a scam.
Yes. And you know what? Like to that, I know you and I ran into this recently. It's so disheartening, especially when you're when you're in desperate need for a job. Like when I lost my job last year, it's like you get this hope. Oh my God, they're reaching out to me. And then you find out it's a total scam.
Yeah,
And it's just so disheartening. And that's what they bank on too, is desperation. Oh, this person,
absolutely.
yeah, and it burns my biscuits, as I like to say. It's
Yeah.
just so disheartening.
And not only that, the other thing that you have to keep in mind is it could be there are different scams at play. The most dangerous one, and the one that I want you to be very mindful of, guys. Sorry, I just got a little case of the hiccups,
Oh, no worries.
but I think I'm good.
I thought you
So,
were like leading up to it with some noises of,
one of the most dangerous scams is if you check the website and either it still sort of looks promising, but if they send you a link, do not open it. And if they
oh,
send you a
yeah.
link that doesn't look legit, like something that doesn't say, hey, schedule some time on my Calendly, God, that's a terrible thing to try to pronounce this early in the
Oh,
morning.
yeah, I can't do it either. Calendarly, yeah, nope.
The application that you guys can use to set up appointments for people,
That one,
that's what
yeah.
we're talking about. Calendly.
Lenderly.
Yes. So that application, if they're sending you that, then sure, that definitely is a legit link. Don't follow any links that look weird. If they're telling you, for example, I this is something that I had happen to me. I was approached about a position after I applied for it. It looked suspicious to me, especially because the extension didn't match what she said, like the company that she said she was from, it didn't line up. But I wanted to play along because I wanted to see how far she would go. And she,
Oh, I remember
reaches
this
out.
one. Okay, yep.
Yeah. So she reached out and she's telling me she's got this opportunity. And then I just have to click this link to fill out the application. Why do I have to fill out an application? I already did it. Now, that's
Hmm.
suspicious, guys. Like, you shouldn't have, if I already applied, why am I applying again? And fun fact on this one, she actually was pretending to be a person that actually worked at that company. And I reached out to that person to let them know because that's misrepresentation. And you don't want then to people to think, oh my gosh, this person at this company is such a scammer. No, it wasn't them. It was someone pretending to be them. So if they're sending you a link to click on, don't do that because 9 times out of 10, they're going to hack your account, your systems. They could drain whatever little money you have left. They could steal your identity. We're not trying to scare you. This is just reality. Do not follow any links, especially if you already have an inkling that it's suspicious. Stay away. One website that I love to use, but it is not without its pitfalls, is upwork.com. It's awesome for freelancing, and we'll probably dedicate an entire episode to that one sometime down the road. Upwork, if you want to hook us up with a promo code, please reach out. But there, it is prone to scams. I have actually applied to a lot of roles that look good on the surface, but then when the person reaches out, it's very clear that it is a scam.
Oh,
One
yeah, like
big
they just draw you in. Yep.
Yeah, one big telltale sign is they don't want to work in Upwork. If they want to work outside the system, chances are high it's a scam because the whole point of Upwork is that they can collect a commission from the opportunity. So they're not supposed to be trying to do work outside of the system. If again, if they're reaching out telling you they're working for this company and the web address that you go to isn't working or doesn't line up with their email, it's a scam, guys. Stay away. The other big one that you know is a scam is, let's say you make it through all the rounds, everything looks super or good enough. Maybe they're not a mainstream company. Maybe they've actually taken the time to make it elaborate, where they've set up a website, it looks legit. They have their email address matches the website address, and so everything looks on the up and up. You go through all the steps, you get offered the position, and now they want to send you the equipment. You just have to send them a money order for $2,000.
Oh,
Um,
God, yeah.
That's a scam. There is no legitimate job. Let me say this very clearly. There is absolutely no legitimate job that requires you to pay for you to work for them.
Yeah, no. But also
Period.
too,
Point blank.
to roll, which just dawned on me, just because they have a website doesn't mean they're a legitimate company or anything. A lot
Absolutely.
of
Yeah.
them, which I discovered, use a front. It was
Yeah.
just like I'm like, oh, they have a website, but when I clicked
Yep.
on the about page and the contact information and everything, nothing lined up.
Yep. Absolutely. You should be able to, if it's a legitimate company, you should be able to do a Google search and find something other than their website. If you do not, chances are high that it is not what it seems to be. Now, that is a totally different story from being a freelancer who is just starting out. I'm talking about companies that you're trying to work for. If they're an established company, they should have a website. If you're just working one on one with a client who's, I don't know, a writer and they just write a lot of articles and they need an editor, that's different because they're not an established company per se. But even then, a lot of times they'll still have some kind of online presence. So you should at least be able to tell something about the person to let you know they're legitimate or for real. So I just said the same thing twice. But anyway, my point is please be wary, even if it looks legitimate. Trust your gut. If your gut is telling you it's too good to be true, it is.
Oh my
Um,
God, yeah.
just your gut will not steer you wrong unless you've jacked up your gut, which I guess is possible. But your gut will tell you, your instinct, your sixth sense, whatever you want to call it will tell you if something doesn't seem right. And if it doesn't seem right, you should stay away. If you cannot verify it to your satisfaction, meaning that you don't feel good about it, you should leave it alone. It is
Yep.
a scam. They're getting way too sophisticated. I've actually gotten a lot of text messages for supposed job offers.
Oh my God,
Um,
yes.
don't
Same.
know how they get my number, but
You know how they do? I figured LinkedIn,
oh, that makes so much
if you
sense.
turn on that
Yeah.
you want to be contacted by recruiters.
Yeah. So that's the other thing too. Oh, here's to that point. I think it's easier to spot scams that are via text message, but still, if their first contact to you is via text and they haven't sent you an actual email to set up an interview, that's pretty suspicious, guys.
Yeah, I just got one yesterday too, actually. I was like, oh, come on.
Yeah, I've started blocking them and I try to as much as possible, but it just they proliferate. They use so many different numbers now. It's getting ridiculous. But just be mindful of that. If you're getting a text message, a random text message about an opportunity when they haven't even tried to reach out to you via an established mechanism like I don't know, LinkedIn or I don't know, email, that's pretty sus. That's pretty
Yeah.
suspicious. So
And
just be
also,
careful.
yeah. And I know this isn't a scam, but it's just a major annoyance is when they contact you for jobs, you have no, like that they don't even take the time to read your resume. They're just trying to make money.
Oh, I call that a scam too.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Like, for example, I got one for VP of quality control packaging.
Yeah, those are the most
Hello? Yeah.
annoying. Yes, it is still a scam because you have not done your due diligence. So shame on you for wasting my time. Because a lot of times what they'll do, which I think is not very bright, but they'll think, oh, if it's not a good fit for you, let me tap into your network. I'm sorry, sir. What? No. Send this to someone who may be interested if you're not interested.
Yeah, I'm not going to do your job for you.
Yeah, like I've gotten contacted to be the director of transportation logistics. What?
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm sorry. You did not read my resume. I've been contacted to be a packager at Amazon or FedEx.
Yes,
Um,
I was like, dude, can you know that I
no.
can't like lifting?
I barely want to lift the Amazon boxes at home. What are you talking about? I don't want to do that for a living. That's not
Mm,
my forte at all.
no, I can't
Um,
carry heavy things. Yeah, no.
Yeah, so I find that also very scammy. This one is scam adjacent because I had this recently
Oh,
happen
I like that.
where it was a legitimate opportunity, but the recruiter wanted to embellish my resume, which was pretty
Oh, yep.
wild. And it's one thing to make tweaks and adjustments to highlight your strengths. It's another thing when they're saying, oh, actually, let's just list it this way when it's totally not true or accurate how they want to couch it. So I say that is scam adjacent because one, they're not being honest. Two, you're presenting yourself in a way that's not being honest. And ultimately, if you're found out,
It's
you're
going
not
to
gonna
be
get the job
quite,
anyway.
yeah, it's going to be quite obvious that you can't do what,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. It's so just watch out for those as well because something that I've learned recently, especially in this particular job in question, this role that I was applying for, is that there are so many agencies competing for that one role. So let's say that there's this managing editor position at Apple. I am making this up, guys. Please be clear. This is a total hypothetical scenario. It's managing editor position at Apple. There is some database. I don't know what it is because I'm not an agency. There's a database out there where Apple will post that position that and make it available to all of these agencies. And suddenly these agencies are all off to the races trying to be the person to land the contract. So what will happen is one, they're trying to race to get there first and with the best candidate. But then they'll also send you a right to represent document, which means that you cannot be presented by any other agency for that role. I have only started seeing this recently, so I don't know like the morality of that. I don't know if it's legal or even prudent, but that's something that I've seen a lot of agencies do because they don't want the same candidate presented for the role at two different agencies. Which I theoretically get the point, but then it also makes you wonder if they're able to lock you in, shouldn't you have the right as a talent to field multiple offers? I don't know,
Yeah.
something to think about.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's weird. It's so weird that is.
we should have a legal person on at some point that could walk us through that because I do wonder about those where they're like, oh, you need to sign this to represent, which means that if somebody else contacts you about this, you have to say no. Because
Yeah, and
I feel
that's,
like it's murky.
yeah, because why would, yeah. No.
Because I'm thinking, like, for example, the NFL, right? Or even basketball. Like when you have a free agent, yes. Okay, maybe that is how it works. Because if I'm a famous basketball player, I just totally switched the analogy, but whatever, go with it. If I'm a famous basketball player whose contract is about to be up and my agent is, I guess, presenting me to all these different teams, they wouldn't want another agent to do the same thing. So maybe that answers the question somehow. Because that
Yeah.
could be weird, right? If I have three different agents,
Yeah, that could be, yeah.
yes, that seems so. So I guess on its face, it makes sense. But then be mindful of that as well from your perspective, guys. If you're going to do that, don't do it and then still go with three other agencies. That's
Yeah, no.
it's tacky, but
That'll just backfire spectacularly.
not only that, then all of a sudden, this is another thing too. I feel like probably you won't even get the role because of the potential client sees your resume come through four times with four different
Oh my god,
agencies.
yeah.
Ew.
Yeah, they'll be like, "What is up with this person?" Yeah.
Like that seems weird. So you definitely I think on its face it makes sense. Something that's related to that, but it's not really a scam, but it just made me think of it because of this what happened is you can actually use this opportunity to leverage your hourly rate.
Yep.
And I say that because agencies at the end of the day, I'm not saying they're not scammy, and that's not what I'm saying, but they're going to make their money. And so chances are pretty high that whatever they're offering you, they're getting double from the client.
Oh,
And they're typically going to split it right down the middle. You're going to get 50% of their cut. That's just the way it is for the privilege of having the opportunity. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. What I am saying is if it's a role that's being broadcast to multiple agencies, you can actually use that to suss out the better option for you. So if the say Apple says they're willing to pay 200 an hour for this particular person, agency A may say, we want to pocket most of the money, so we're going to tell the potential talent that it's 80 an hour, meaning they're
Yep.
keeping 120. But then agency B might come around and say, you know what, we want to be fair. We're going to give them $100 an hour because we're going to split it right down the middle. Which agency would you go with? I don't know. I wonder. And also keep in mind that just because the client is offering a certain amount an hour, don't think the agency is going to be magnanimous and give you the money that would be fair. If you leave money on the table, they're not going to tell you. They're going to pocket that money. So keep that in mind. Make sure you're asking for what you're worth. Make sure you're being smart. Do your research, do your homework. I love to actually do searches for the particular position because that gives me a sense of what the actual rate is. And so if an agency is telling me, is quoting me $20 less per hour, but it's posting for a certain amount, then I can actually use that to my advantage because I have some visibility into the hourly rate. Something to
Yeah.
think about.
That's a good, I didn't, yeah.
So I guess technically that's scam adjacent because they're not being fully honest.
And one thing we should discuss too, not today, obviously, since it's almost time for us to actually start work
I
already,
know. I know
is
so fast.
ghosting.
Oh my God. We talked about having segments, Sam, where we're gonna go on little rants. Yes. Oh dear God. Yes. Yes. We need to talk about that. But it's not gonna be today because then we won't be able to get to
No,
work.
we'll be on here until 5.
Ooh, maybe. Oh, then that could be next week's topic. One of
Yes.
them we're gonna talk about. It's a segment that Sam and I like to call. I call it what chaps my hide, and Sam calls it.
Burns my biscuits.
There you go. And we'll talk about that next week because that is such a huge pet peeve of mine. So we're going to talk about ghosting.
Yeah, and just to give you a preview, I was literally ghosted by the head of people management, or yeah, ghosted me about a job. Yeah. I have to
Come
get
on,
the exact
guys.
title, but I actually responded and wrote a letter.
Yeah, guys, don't do that. Don't ghost people. The circle is small. It goes both ways. It is small for us as freelancers. It is also small for recruiters, okay? Y'all are dipping into the same pond. Do better.
Yep, exactly.
And we'll leave it there before we go into a
Yes.
tirade. So I guess
But
as a wrap up, and we're gonna put each other on the spot here, since we already have one topic. What other two topics do we want to talk about next week, Sam?
okay, so we have ghosting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to
Oh,
think.
I think I remembered one that you and I talked about. Contracts.
Yes. So I
Yeah, we're
think
gonna talk
ghosting
about
and
that.
contracts, and I was trying to find my list of items. Dang it.
Yeah, you have some good ones.
All right, I'll have to find those and come up. Why am I like losing everything,
And that might take us a good
including my
amount of time.
mind? Yeah.
So that might actually take us a good amount of time anyway. So we may just have those two topics next week,
Yeah,
ghosting and
ghosting will be,
contracts.
yeah, contracts is huge.
Yeah,
That's what
and
she said, but yeah. I had to
yes,
close with one of those. Yes.
I like it. Well done. Yeah, contracts are super important. It doesn't matter what type of freelancing you are doing. Trust me, they are so important. And maybe tied to it, this could be like a mini topic. Ways that you can make your contracts airtight. I know that seems like a really bold statement for me to make, but there are some tips and tricks on there too.
And to that point, things to look out for in the contract, mainly payment terms.
Yes. Oh gosh, yes. So it's
Like
gonna
it's
be
happened
pretty
to you
hefty.
recently, so we could bring that up.
Yeah, so that's going to be a pretty layered topic as it is contracts, payment terms, making sure you have things in writing, making sure you review the contract, making sure you have a very clear sense of what you're getting into, and also making sure that the contract is airtight for you. There are ways to protect yourself, and believe it or not, it doesn't take a huge amount of money, and we'll talk about what those are. So I think that's going to take us a good bit of time as it is. And then, yes, we're going to go into mini rants about ghosting and how we
Yep.
feel about that because it's trash and
Yeah.
people shouldn't do it.
Garbage people. Garbage humans, yes.
Exactly. That'll take us a little bit anyway. So, yeah, man, this was a long one. That's what she said.
That was even better. Oh, we're so
So,
mature. I love it.
we are, guys, and that's okay because you know what? Life is too short. And so we're goofballs, and that's how we roll and deal with it. Hmm.
Exactly. But all
There we
right.
go. Cool. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Seriously. I know this is like early days still, but I promise you, like this time next year, we're gonna be like, oh my gosh, look at us now.
Yeah.
Um,
Up. Yeah. Woo.
exactly. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being like what I call the day ones. Like you were here from the beginning. We're gonna definitely have some giveaways. That's still gonna be down the road. So stick around for that. We're gonna do some contests. We're gonna do
Yeah.
some really cool things. We're just
And
getting started.
yeah, and give us like ideas of topics you'd like to cover. And also,
Please
if we
do.
don't know an answer or something, we will definitely research it for you, especially with other people we know in the industry that may have the answer to the question.
Exactly.
Whatever you need to know or you're looking to find out more information on, let us know.
Yep, that's exactly right. And we like to say the word exactly. So we're
Yeah,
not
a
telling you
lot.
something.
Exactly. There we go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But seriously, thank you guys for joining on this. It's going to be early for us. By the time you guys see it, it probably won't be that early. But thank you for joining us in spirit while we were like working through all these great topics for episode 3. And we really hope to see you again next week. Until then, ta ta.
Yep. That's up for now.
Bye.
Bye.